Let's, okay. Let me start by saying this to each and every one of you. First of all, I appreciate each and every one of you more than you could possibly even imagine. Every day I get up at about 4:30 in the morning. I start writing my Substacks, and I want to make sure each and every one of you have read, especially today's, because today's Substack, it's it's very important in terms of the chaos that we are currently living through. I called it Musk brings tweets to a gunfight, right? To a gunfight. And the reason why it's important is because we do need to understand where we are at as a group, as a community. You know, I sit sometimes and I see some of these other talking heads that pop up here on Substack. And I often wonder, okay, great. They have 1,000 people. We'll have 1,000 people in no time too. Fuck is 1,000 people going to do for us? All right. I say this with deep respect to everybody that joins all the time. 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 people. That's where you start. And, I've been now on this Substack now for about 90 days. And here's the scenario. This isn't the way to build a coalition. It's the problem with the entire democratic structure. I was talking to Rick Wilson about it. In fact, I'm going to go on he's on my Mea Culpa podcast that's going to be coming up on Friday. And at the very end of the show, I actually talked to him about it. And one of the big issues that the Democratic Party has is simply the fact that we are scattered as a group. You have thousands of different groups like here, like on a Michael Cohen show, like a Lev Parnas, or like my Mea Culpa podcast, or Political Beatdown with Ben, and so on. We have thousands of these. But here's the bigger problem. The Republican Party, they're like a pyramid, and Donald Trump is at the very top. And with that, they bark out what they want done. Here, in our group, what happens? Well, everybody's sort of doing their own thing. There is no consolidation. It's basically like a shotgun shooting it at a target, as opposed to a strategic strike. And that I don't understand. What I don't understand too is why we have about 500 people in here. So I want every single one of you to smash the hearts. Just keep smashing it. I understand it helps with the algorithm and all that. And then that little square box with the up arrow. We need people in this community. We just do. We need people to join the community. When we go on, we're not supposed to have thousands. We're supposed to have hundreds of thousands. Why? Somebody has to take the lead. I kind of describe it almost as if this was the military. What we need is we need a headquarters. We need where there's one person or several who are directing the communities, but we don't have that. It's almost like every man for himself in the Democratic Party. And if this is the route that the Democratic Party is going to take, we are going to lose, and we're going to lose big. It's why I am desperately trying, with your help, to put this together. I don't just get up at 4:30 in the morning for fuck's sake. All right. I get up because I want to make sure that what I bring to the table is distinct, that it's unique, that it offers you as the reader an opportunity to get and to learn something new. The other day at night, I had Ben, my co-host of Political Beatdown, Midas Touch founder, Ben Meiselas, on with me. And we got into somewhat of a debate in regard to Elon Musk, Trump, this feud, the war. And one of the things that I turn around and I say all the time, oh, and we really got into a much bigger debate in regard to the Jeffrey Epstein file. And I bring this up not because Ben isn't here to, let's say, advocate for his position. Everybody's entitled to believe what they want. Could believe whatever you want. I don't care if you believe in the tooth fairy. None of my business. But don't ask me to turn around and to explain the tooth fairy. I don't believe in it. It's not real in my world. And what I was saying yesterday in regard to this Epstein matter is that in the 15 years that I was around Trump, I never heard Jeffrey Epstein call the office. I know for a fact that Trump never had dinners with him during the time period that I was there. The time period that we see these videos or these photographs took place in the early 90s. I had just finished law school in 91, passed the bar in 92. I was working since 91 doing medical malpractice and tort litigation. So I had no idea what their relationship, if any, existed. And I will not comment on something that I don't know, because if I do that, I lose credibility. And if I lose my credibility, well, what's the point to do any of this? And so I won't. And I said, I can't talk about anything that took place before, say, 2007. Anything from 2007 to 2017, 2018, I'm more than happy to give you my firsthand knowledge, which, in all fairness, is greater than anybody else's because there is nobody that spent more time with him than I. Now, I don't say he did right. I'm certainly not going to say he did wrong. I don't know. But my firsthand knowledge, my firsthand experience during my time, my tenure at the Trump Organization, sitting side by side with Trump, is that there was no relationship. And all of a sudden, people became offended by it. Oh, you're taking the knee. You're kissing the ring. Why? Why? Because I'm not going to appeal to your prurient desire of hearing about some sort. Listen, I have as much right to blame Trump or have a connection with Jeffrey Epstein to Trump as I would do if I said that Donald Trump was responsible for the Lufthansa heist or the Lindbergh baby kidnapping. All right? Plain and simple. I am here only to offer to you, this community, what I know to be truthful and what I know to be accurate. And with that, I decided to write this article this morning. And you'll see the weave on how I get now to the point I was trying to make. Let me see if Lev is going to be joining us. Just 1 second, my friends. See if he ends up coming in. Musk brings tweets to a gunfight. And I started off and I say, let me be perfectly blunt, that this is not a clash of titans. This isn't Godzilla versus King Kong. This is Mike Tyson in his prime, walking into a daycare and challenging a toddler with finger paint to a bare knuckle brawl. The metaphor? Trump is Mike Tyson and Elon Musk is the toddler. When I say Elon Musk, is he a visionary? Maybe. Genius? I don't know. Possibly. But a political warrior going head to head with Trump? Sitting president of the United States? The commander of the world's most powerful military and a man who rewrote the rules of power? Not a chance. This fight, it's not even close. I talk about something that every single one of you could fully understand and appreciate. People love to romanticize these billionaires because wealth, after all, it looks like power until you come face to face with real power. And real power isn't having a rocket company, a car company, or even a social media platform. Real power is having the nuclear codes, the IRS, the DOJ, the Supreme Court, the FBI, the FCC, the FTC, and ICE on speed dial, right? Real power is owning the game board while everyone else is fighting over tokens. And right now, Trump owns the whole fucking board. You may not be happy with hearing that, but Trump owns the entire board on that. This fight between Trump and Musk, it's not a fair fight because Elon thinks himself as some sort of a hybrid between George Washington and Iron Man, right? Thinking now he's going to launch the American party, this third party, with a tweet, some fanfare, and let me be honest, a shit high mountain of ego. And he thinks that giving America back its freedom, what he's really doing is handing Trump a political bat and saying to him, here you go, take a swing. And something that Lev and I will both acknowledge, if you give Trump a bat, Trump's not going to swing lightly. He's going to go right for your fucking head. And that's what he's going to do to Elon. My friend Lev, they should join us.
Hey, Michael, how are you, brother? Yeah, crazy stuff going on. Listen, I definitely 100% agree with you that if you give Trump a bat, he's definitely going to take a swing with you. But I definitely disagree with you a little bit, and I'm going to push back on, I think, the Elon Musk stuff. I mean, let me reframe myself. I agree with you that Trump has the upper hand. I agree with you that Elon is playing an uphill battle. I agree with you that Trump probably has a lot more power to do something to Elon than Elon does to Trump. Now, with all of that said, just watching how this is playing out and watching today, and I don't know, I jumped in late. I don't know if you guys spoke about the press conference that he had.
Not yet. I was waiting for you.
Oh,
but
okay.
Before we go to the
Yeah,
press conference,
okay.
before we go to the press conference, I would like to hear your take on the Musk-Trump feud that's going on right now.
Yep.
I would be curious what you think that Elon Musk, in terms of damage to Trump, he could actually do. We all know what Trump can do. As I said before, Trump controls everything. The IRS, the DOJ, the Supreme Court, Congress, the FBI, the FCC, the FTC, ICE. He's got them all on speed dial. So my question to you is, what do you think that Elon Musk can do to, in all fairness, the most powerful person on the planet and a guy who controls the power of the government, meaning its purse?
Well, again, it all depends what Trump does, how he responds, how authoritarian he becomes, how quickly he does things. It also depends to what degree Elon wants to do it, because, like you said, he is the richest man in the world, and that gives him a lot of leverage worldwide. I mean, this guy could buy himself, a small country, and get himself, citizenship somewhere else if he really wants to. I mean, without getting technical into what he can or cannot do, and not getting into how quickly Trump reacts. But assuming if Trump allows him, which I agree with you, I don't think Trump allows him to continue this third party. I think Trump responds quickly and swiftly and soon. I think it's all part of his election, that whole thing to make sure to get prepared for the midterm elections. And I don't think, because where Elon holds the biggest threat to him is not that he'll have a third party, because the third party, first of all, let's understand, no Democrat's going to go for Elon. He's one of the most hated guys out there. Besides, so it's not like he's going to get real.
And there's no Republican that's going to back him either, because they're afraid of Trump.
Well, I'll tell you, watching what's happening with this rift, especially with the Epstein files and what happened with Qatar and what happened with, the way Trump's been, the attack in Iran going and what happened with what, I mean, there's a major rift in mega world.
Yeah, so let me say this, because something that a lot of our followers, our viewers, and people, when I was on the other day with Ben, Mycelis, that they were all, well, Elon knows a lot. Okay, I don't know that to be not true. I always enjoy the commentary that comes from our community, even the commentary that is predicated on nothing other than somebody's belief that Elon knows a lot. If Elon knows a lot and he had anything that could cause Trump damage, well, then I think he's obligated within which to spill it. If Elon, with his massive ego and his micro dosing of ketamine, is basically doing it to poke the bear, I would say that that's one of the stupidest things that Elon would end up doing, right? Stop poking the bear, who's somebody that controls the financial ecosystem that you rely on to remain rich. Because not only is Elon's personal fortune at risk, his companies are at risk, his freedom is at risk. Imagine they'll bring him up. You think Pam Bondi won't bring him up on some fraud charge? You think
Well,
that
that
they won't bring it into a court where, for example, it is heavily Trump MAGA'd? And the
well,
next thing you know, he's got a criminal indictment pending against him. So you say, oh, yeah, but he's got money. He could buy himself a visa to a country. There's only two countries that I'm aware of that do not have extradition treaties with the United States. And I believe one is Morocco, and the other is in West Africa, a place called Namibia.
well,
And
no,
other than those
Russia,
two
Russia,
locations,
Russia, 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 Russia.
okay,
There's
let
no
me be
truth.
let me be very clear about something. One thing that Vladimir Putin is not going to do is go to war with the United States over Elon Musk.
You're wrong. I'm going to push back. You're wrong. I mean, Vladimir Putin will definitely, and he's trying to get Elon Musk because that's another card to hold against Trump. Because Trump right now is starting to realize that he's being played by Vladimir Putin. He's starting to get agitated. Steve Witkoff can't control the reins, because Trump is going to. So this will be a tremendous play. The other thing with Elon, watching the way this played out, especially today, watching Trump's reaction confirmed 100% that Elon definitely knows something. 100%
Well,
that
no, no,
Trump.
don't say that, because what it does is it falls into the same line. It's not 100% that Elon knows something.
No, I believe
That's
it's
one
a,
hundred
no.
percent your opinion. All right.
No, because I also have sources that I wrote about in my Substack that are in Trump world that have basically 100% Elon was in the room. And you should know better than anybody that when you're that close to Trump and as close as
Yes.
Elon was to Trump, he was a fly on the wall in a lot of conversations, a
Yeah.
lot of meetings. And the Epstein files was one of the most important things. The Epstein files, the JFK files, Martin Luther, these are what he ran on. This is what all of X was talking about. This is why right now there's such a big rift. And that's why Elon poked the bear with that. Now, how derogatory or what is actually in there? That's a different story. Right now, Elon just tweeted out on what's it called that Bannon is in the Epstein files. So, I mean, now I don't know if that's
By the
bullshit.
way,
That
so is Bill Clinton.
Right.
So what?
Okay, I understand that, but what I'm saying to you is you gotta understand. Mega ran on that. Trump ran on that there's and right now to say that there is nothing, which is a total lie,
Right.
because
That would be
they all acknowledge, everybody in the world knows that there is a list there. Epstein did have clients. That's what he did for a living. Now, what degree of those relationships with those clients? But here's the key. What I'm hearing, and this is what I'm telling you, is that there are what's it called people on that list that not so much as what Trump. See, people think that it's Donald Trump that did like his meaning. It has that there's some big bombshell of Donald Trump sleeping with a young girl. That's not what I'm hearing. What I'm hearing is Trump is covering up, shutting this down because of other people. that are on that list. Business people that Trump is now that are friendly to him, that are it's the Epstein list basically became like a pardon, for people that come and try to get pardons. Now people that were on that list, because that people on that list were Republicans, Democrats, all from all over the world. We
Yeah.
had people on that list. So because of that, and Trump is right now open to how many, like, we don't know. Again, this is not 100%, because this is what I'm saying is where we don't know, like through his cryptocurrency and deals and everything, almost anybody could, get to him and say, here, here's $100 million into the cryptocurrency and make that list go away. Who knows? But what I'm saying to you is
Right. That's my whole point, Les. I don't know.
that I
And
agree with you.
and I am the first one who will turn around and say, what I don't know, I acknowledge that I
I agree with
don't
you.
know. And that's the only thing that I was saying yesterday, and I say today and tomorrow. I will wait for the facts to come out before I turn around and I say anything for certain. I think that's the prudent thing to do. And I don't care if it's Donald Trump or if it was Barack Obama, if it was Joe Biden. I don't care if it was George Bush. I'm not going to turn around and just basically say, because I like or dislike a person one way or the other. I think the right thing to do is you wait for the facts to come out. My feeling is if Elon Musk, and I agree with you, Trump is very loose when you are in that inner circle and they are discussing things. He never speaks on the phone where he's holding the phone to his ear. It's always on a speakerphone, whether it's a cell speakerphone or it was the one that attached to his office line. So everybody got, if you're in that inner circle, you got to hear things. You know, I just see this as um, Musk making a very bad self inflicted mistake because for all his wealth and for all his ambition, he basically is declaring war without an army, without a shield, and he has no exit strategy. And trust me, and you know this too, he's going to learn the hard way that America is not a startup that you can disrupt with a flashy rebrand and a mission statement. Because all Trump cares about at this point, it's not an ideology, it's dominance.
Well, I mean, listen, Trump literally checkmated Elon, because let's
Yes,
understand what happened today. Today, we're never gonna, from today on, we're never gonna know in the Epstein list. It's done. It's shut. It's closed. Trump literally himself shut it today. If any reporter asks about it, it will be shut down. You're not gonna hear it in the media. It's gonna die out with the. He took the hit. So now again, I don't think Elon has, when we say Elon has the receipts or Elon knows, I don't think Elon has receipts. I think Elon knows more than he needs to know. And that's a big difference, knowing something and having the receipts. Because when you
sure,
have the,
sure. Nobody knows that better than me, who testified 7 times before Congress. I was not testifying to anything that there wasn't what we call in law documentary evidence or corroborating testimony. So Elon's going to turn around and make a statement. Oh, yeah, we were sitting in the room and this is what I heard Trump say.
correct.
And Trump will turn around and say, dude, I never said that. You were fucked up on your micro dosing of ketamine, right? And your Adderall and your this and your that and your pot and your so on. You were fucking higher than a kite. All right. So bullshit. Where's the corroborating testimony? Where is the documentary evidence? Without documentary evidence, it's just what's called hearsay, an out of court statement offered to prove the truth of the matter asserted therein. And that has no bearing, especially when Trump and his inner circle will say, I was there, and Trump never even talked about that.
Yeah, and that's why I think 100%. That's why I think Trump did what he did. That's why they released this on a Sunday. That's why because to him, just think there was no advantage of releasing this, because for him it was easier to string his mega base along for the next 3 years and give him excuses and for them to listen. Because right now there's a major rift in mega. Like I can't even explain to you. Like
No,
there's
well, no, no, no. I need you to explain because I don't see the MAGA rift as
oh,
bad, believe it
it's
or
true.
not, as the Democratic rift,
Well, again, I don't know. You see, that's different if you're comparing it to which Democratic. I
the
mean,
Democratic Party.
the Democratic Party, where you see there's two different things. You're talking about the congressmen and senators. Now, there's not as big of a rift because of the files. We're talking about the files in Congress as there is in his base, in social media, and people that are the hardcore mega cultists out there that are on these spaces. I, for the first time, and seeing, I mean, I've been watching it. First of all, when he got the big mega, that big Qatari gift, it
Mhm.
started. Then when he, were planning to go to war and attack Iran, his flip flopping with Israel. I mean, there were, the war with Elon. I mean, all of that, none of it compares to what I'm watching and seeing today. And I'm seeing people come out literally today after the way he stood out at that press conference and made that statement. And literally, are talking about saying, I don't know if I could, stand for this anymore. And you got Laura Loomer that, is attacking Pam Bondi and everybody's attacking her now, saying, why are you attacking Pam Bondi when Trump himself just basically shut it all down? So, and you have huge accounts. I mean, the biggest, accounts on Mega. So, what I'm saying to you is, it was a big move for Trump to do that, and for him to do that, that means Elon definitely knows more than he should, and Trump needed to shut down because, again, a lot of it. And you gotta understand the other thing. What people have to understand when I say Elon, it doesn't mean it was something criminal. Doesn't mean it's something you saw like but even uh, giving a perception to what could be. And because of Epstein being so basically, like acid, like
Disgusting.
disgusting, and because being so what's it called, to be even associated, to be even thrown into that mix. What I'm saying to you is that's what I think Elon had enough because listen, they're trying to scrub. There's two things they're trying to scrub with this Epstein thing. A, they're trying to scrub people that Trump is close to, people he's doing business with, people that have a reason why he wants to shut down, and also Trump. I mean, listen, back in those days, before we knew that Epstein was disgusting, because before everybody knew Epstein was that, Epstein was a very wealthy individual who lived in that life, where everybody wanted to be associated with him. Trump, where they were neighbors in Palm Beach. I mean, they ran in the same circuit. So definitely they had more of a relationship. Then Trump played it down to say, I met the guy one time or two times or whatever he said. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? So there's definitely more of a relationship there was. That doesn't mean that they were sleeping with an underage girl together. I'm not. That's what I'm saying to you. It doesn't mean that that was it. But there's definitely more to this than it is
Right.
that.
And my position always has been, I'm happy to hear the information, but I hope that the information is backed up by something more than just Elon's word, because I don't trust Elon any more than I trust what's going on right now with these Epstein files, right? I want to see the documentary evidence, but as you rightfully put it, nobody's going to see those files. Not at least for the next 3.5 years. That's certainly for sure.
Oh, they'll destroy it. Oh,
Well,
if
it's
it's
not
for
so
whatever
easy. It's
reason.
not so easy to destroy.
You see,
It's
again, Michael, this is the one thing I'm going to say to you. A lot of times, when we talk about that, we're assuming we're living in a normal world. Yes, if we had a normal DOJ, a normal FBI, normal powers, and to be 100%, we don't have that. We live in an authoritarian system right now, where if Donald Trump wants to destroy something, just like they destroyed the signal chats. Just like they destroyed the signal chats, just like they did not brief Congress on the bombs and give him all the reasons why he's doing, because there's no accountability. Yes, if we had accountability and if we had systems in place like we know America to be, 100%, but we don't, and that's why he could go do it. And who's going to stop him?
At
Because
this point in time right now, nobody.
the Supreme
No,
Court said
nobody.
that, he'll say, oh, I by accidentally I by actually threw it out, didn't know it was that. He's the, Supreme Court said, he can't, be held accountable, for anything he does while he's in office. So that's where the scary part is, when it comes to stuff like that. That what his action, what he did today, See what, and I knew that was coming because of the way by the way they put it out, the way they haven't responded, the way haven't come out to the media for the past 2 days, because they knew that they were dreading that. And for Trump to come out and start screaming at the reporter after he ran on this, Michael,
I
this
think
was
the
it.
greatest. I think the greatest of all is during that the what do you call it? The meeting today, the cabinet meeting, the sixth one. Thank you, Marguerite. After the sixth meeting of the cabinet, he started to attack the New York Times, CNN, and so on, which I just thought was absolutely incredible, where he's calling them enemies of the state, fake news, and so on. And I'm more concerned, believe it or not, about that than I am about the Jeffrey Epstein file. The
100%.
the stories regarding Epstein, young girls, the list, they will ultimately all come out eventually in little tiny dribs and drabs. Does that mean, as you said, rightfully so, that there's some illegality here? No, doesn't mean that. Does it mean that he's exonerated? No, it doesn't mean that either. Nobody knows. And my feeling is, as a lawyer, you don't start playing the hypothetical until you have the documents. That's just the way that you do it. Now, mind you, you said something interesting that they could get rid of the documents. That's true, but there are still people, right? So you still will always have certain corroborating evidence and information. And
But see,
that's the point.
but see, the problem with that is once you don't have the fact, we live in a world right now when you, unless you could bring the receipts corroborating, especially when it comes to Epstein, there's been so much people. We have actual like victims coming out saying that they were underage when Donald Trump was with them, and there's lawsuits. They've been settled. They've been discredited because she took payment. I mean, so corroborating again, we live in a world right now. Unless you have an actual text
Well,
message
I
or
don't know.
a video.
E. Jean Carroll didn't have the documentary evidence
Yeah, but
that you're
E.G. Carroll
talking about.
also, with all honesty, E.G. Carroll, and that's a one of a kind situation to be in that courtroom. New York. We have to be honest where it is. He, it was very easy to get Donald Trump convicted in the New York courtroom because he is who he is. So
Well, yeah, but that's not really fair. It was a jury of 12. Counsel for Trump had the ability within which to voir dire jurors as well. That I could tell you right off the bat, my next door neighbor down the hall, fucking MAGA, right? And so that doesn't mean that the jury pool, which had to be, you had to hold him accountable here, or in this case, it was actually the judge. I'm not 100% certain that you can't get a fair trial anywhere. I mean, that's
no,
just my
listen, I,
opinion.
I'm
I
not.
I certainly hope so.
And I don't want to, and I agree with you. I don't want to say never ever. I don't want to use those words. And you can't get fair. I'm saying to you, just the way we are so politically jaded right
Yep.
now as a country that like never before. I mean, we have. I mean, my 6-year-old knows, Donald Trump's name, and I mean, what's going on in the news because we've never been as a country where you wake up and everybody's watching the news, go on social media. The news cycles change. It's so much to that effect where I think it's a little bit more that it's different than when somebody gets out of the media and knows that it's Donald Trump, knows the whole league. So anyway, again, and that's not to say one way or the other. The bottom line, because I gotta run, I have a 2:45. I gotta do live. I'm doing with Brian Krasenstein. I just wanted to jump in and definitely go over this with you, and I think we should definitely when we do our Unleashed on Thursday. By that time, we'll have a lot more to break down and go over about this. So make sure everybody,
Well,
if you have.
we certainly do. But I just before you split, I know you were watching the cabinet meeting as well. Of the entire cabinet meeting, what struck you the most?
I'll tell you honestly, two things. This Epstein, the way he responded, it really, it was like I was watching it, my head was down. And when all of a sudden the question was being asked, I couldn't wait for it. I was waiting to see who's going to ask the question to Bondi because that was the question of the day. And as it was being asked, and to see him jump in when I heard his voice and said, "Are you still asking this? I mean, you're talking about the sick, disgusting guy. Let's forget, like, move on. We got Texas go, the tragedy here." I mean, I'm paraphrasing him, and he went. I looked up and I was like, "Holy shit!" Like that. There's a. I mean, he wants this.
Yeah,
This and
yeah,
that. This.
you're
This.
not. By the
This
way, you're not wrong. And what was the other thing?
the other thing was the way he was playing the Russia Ukraine stuff. The way he came out and started again back to he doesn't like Putin after just literally 3 days ago lifting sanctions on his war banks, literally praising him for all the stuff that they were doing, again halting weapons on Ukraine, and then having him come out today and talk about how he's not happy with Putin. It's all a game. It's all back and forth. In the meantime, even the weapons that he's signing, that he's giving, it's like read the fine print, because they're planning on sending him like 10 missiles, like 10 anti-craft in there. And you see how Trump says defense, not offensive, defense, missiles. And we also have to check our, weapons. So anyway, those two things showed me, just knowing Trump and being around him, showed me basically that Ukraine is basically still going to get bombarded, and he's going to let Putin do what he wants to do. And when it came to the Epstein list, we are never going to see the Epstein list. It is either destroyed already, or it's buried somewhere, or it's already fine-tuned to be put, because one of the other things Trump likes to do is change history, just like he did with 2020 elections by letting out the January Sixers, by talking about, yeah, go ahead.
So I saw the two issues that I thought. One, of course, was the response to the Epstein file. It does certainly bother him. There's no doubt about that. But what really I thought was something telling was more the attack on the free press, the First Amendment, the attacks on New York Times, basically, stating that the journalists should be fired, that wrote
Natasha Bertrand, yeah.
Right, Natasha Bertrand, that she should be fired. CNN should lose their license. When he says this, and you know this because you were around him enough to know it, he's not saying it simply for the moment. He's saying because it's on his mind, and he's trying to figure out how he's going to get the New York Times to fire Natasha Bertrand. He's trying to figure out how to shut CNN down for doing all the things, that he thinks they're doing wrong. I like how it's his determination of what is factual and what is not. I do also acknowledge that, I was very disappointed in terms of some of the answers regarding Russia and Ukraine. Trump knows now, because it is indisputable, that he's being played by Putin. He truly thought that he was going to be able to put an end to this war, to which, of course, that and getting back the hostages from Hamas to Israel, stopping that war, stopping the war between India and Pakistan, that he was going to be known as the peaceful president and therefore receive the Nobel Peace Prize. All of this now is interrupted. And so, I didn't particularly care for the response in regard to Russia, because right now Ukraine, as every day, are fighting for their lives. I also am furious that every time he talks about how much money the United States has given to Ukraine in terms of armaments, it's the opposite way. And nobody turns around and nobody's correcting him. The United States has not given $300+ billion. The EU did. We've given around 105, 110. I mean, I'm just not sure why nobody, holds him to account on that. But
Because and I gotta run right now because I gotta start to about end off on this because I've never seen the press conference be set up with his own people because it's just look at how he responds when Caitlin from CNN at Collins asked him a question about Ukraine. She said, which is a proper question, Mr. President, you're saying you're releasing the missiles to Ukraine, but who's the one that stopped them on the border? And he turned around and said, "Let me ask you that question. You answer that question," and told and shut her up. I mean, and then you got right after that, you got this guy. I forgot his name, but he's Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend.
Yeah.
And he's put in there. He's a plant to put in there to right away give a soft question like, "Oh, Mr. President, Texas loves you so much," and you did blah blah, just to distract and go. And I'm going to end off on this. But the one crazy part, Michael, maybe you could talk about as I go on that with the audience a little bit is I don't know if you noticed when when the questioning first started, he was asked a question about Ukraine and he went off completely on something totally else. Like he was literally answered the question in a totally different, like talked about like a totally different subject, and then the reporter asked him again and said, "Okay, but what about Ukraine?" And then he was like, "Oh," and then went back into it. I don't know if you noticed that. I want to rewind that. I want to watch that again because it was just I was doing two things at the same time. But
Well, it's certainly a very different conversation than the conversation he's had in the past,
yeah,
especially the conversation when Zelensky was in the Oval Office. But Lev, I appreciate it. No, you got to go jump.
I got to
Say
jump,
hi to
guys.
Brian for me.
Absolutely, will
And
do. And everybody, make sure to subscribe to Michael,
yeah.
subscribe
Let
to
me
me.
start saying that. If you're a
Go
Lev
ahead.
subscriber, please make sure you subscribe to me. If you're a Michael subscriber, please make sure that you subscribe to Lev. Lev, I'll call you later.
You got it, brother. Take care.
You got it. And so to, you, my loyal and my Substack community here, again, please make sure that you keep hitting the hearts. I understand that it helps us in terms of growing the platform with the algorithm. Again, that's what allegedly I was told. On top of that, the little square with the arrow, that's how you can share this, bring more people into the community. You know, to those of you who read my Substack, you'll note that at the end of every single Substack, I do what's called a call to action. And in that call to action, I say, and I'm going to yell it out loud, I cannot do this alone. If I can't get your help, then organically, we could never grow this platform to where we need to be. And so I ask each and every one of you, because so many of you ask all the time. I get more DMs from people asking, what can I do to help? And I just say, if you could support the platform, please do. If not, I'm not hiding behind a paywall. I want everybody to be able to read and to interact in this community. If you can, God bless you. Thank you. If you can't, no problem. We still love you. You're still a major part of this community. But here's what else you can do. Share this with your family. Share this with your friends. Share this with your coworkers. Share this with your next door neighbor. Share it with your freaking, I don't know, postman. I don't care. Share it with as many people as you can. This is the problem with the DNC. Again, we are scattered and we need to be focused. We need to be more like the Republicans, which are more like a pyramid where Trump sits and reigns supreme from the top. That's just a fact. Is there no audio here? Is the audio okay? Can everybody hear? I mean, I know there's this stupid lag for whatever the reason, Substack, people still know. Okay. By the way, to those of you that have been asking me, how do I get my copy, the limited signed edition one? Just DM me. I tell you how to get it. If you want it, I'll just send you the instructions on what needs to be done. Just DM me here on this platform. Don't DM me elsewhere. There's no audio. Well, now I think that you're wrong about that. Um, Anyways, the important thing is to please help us to grow, help this community to grow. If there's one thing that you can do right now, one thing, just help us grow the community. Hit that square with the up arrow. Share this with family, share it with friends, with whoever you can. It does two things. One, it helps us to grow the community. And two, it helps us to advance legitimate truth. It helps us to advance a narrative that is different than the narrative you're going to see on mainstream, lamestream cable news, where you have a whole group of idiots, a bunch of pundits and talking heads that, depending upon who you are, will turn around and give you an answer completely different, predicated off of no fact, just simply responding in a way that appeals to the audience or the group that they belong to. And that's not right. A fact is a fact, whether you're Republican, Democrat, or Independent. A factor is a fact. And so, again, with that, I want to just say to all of you, have a great tonight at 5:30. I'm coming back on. I'm going to be on with David Pakman. We're going to be talking about some of the advances of what's going on now from that cabinet meeting, what's happening in Texas, because it's not just the Texas flooding disaster. As everybody knows, there was also a shooting that took place, something we talked about here on this Substack, something I've written about on this Substack, that there's going to come an event where people are not going to just accept a bunch of individuals with masks, even if they're holding an AR. A lot of people have ARs out there. A lot of people have firearms. And that shit happened yesterday. On top of all the stuff that Texas is dealing with, that happened as well. People got hurt. Shooter was killed. ICE agents. Not good. And I'm concerned about that. It's just the beginning. And to all of you again, my friends, this community, 5:30, David Pakman and I will be here. So make sure that you are 100. By the way, 4:30 today, I'm on with Ben Meiselas, YouTube, Midas Touch Network, Political Beatdown. Hope to see every single one of you there. Again, if you want the book, DM. If you can support, that's great. If not, share this with your family. Share this with your friends. Appreciate each and every one of you, and make sure you read my Substack of the day. It's a doozy.